Hey guys, Brandon with Flyin Miata back for another FM Live. Today we're going to talk about power, but a different kind. We're going to talk about electrical power. So we are now carrying these anti-gravity lithium-ion batteries. So when we first started talking about lithium batteries, I was kind of, I don't know, aren't those the batteries that blow up and catch fire and aren't allowed on planes and whatever other drama and really aren't applicable for streetcars or daily drivers and that kind of thing? The answer is no, these are not that kind of battery. So I dug into it a little bit. Lithium ion is kind of a blanket term for lithium ion batteries, and there are a lot of different batteries that fall, or a lot of different chemistries and makeups that fall within that. Now, the lithium battery that you have in your pocket is most likely a lithium polymer battery. So they have very high energy density, so they're great for cell phones where you're trying to make it as small as possible. They are not quite as safe as something like this. So this is a lithium iron phosphate battery. You will typically see it written as Li lithium Fe iron Po phosphate 4, or just pronounced LiPo is kind of the way that's usually said. So these are not quite as energy dense as a lithium polymer. However, they can be discharged many more times, go through far more cycles. I think 5,000 cycles is a lifetime, which is one of the big benefits to this, because these batteries typically will last 8-10 years, which is not your normal lifespan on a lead acid battery. Kind of more specifically, the LiPo batteries have they're much better thermal and structural stability. It is not combustible. It is not prone to thermal runaway. If you stab a screwdriver through it, your battery is dead, but it's not going to explode in your face. So very cool stuff there. It's also something that high-end brands have been using for about a decade in production cars. Porsche, Mercedes, BMW, McLaren, those guys. So, as you can see, it is a direct replacement for stock. No brackets needed, no fancy whatever, bolted in, terminals are on the same side, all that kind of stuff. What you can't see is how light it is. So you can watch me struggle. That's about 27, 28 pounds, something like that. This one is about 10 pounds. So bonkers lighter. It doesn't feel empty. However, it is wildly lighter than this guy, which is crazy. 8 to 10 year lifespan on these guys. They last a very long time. Along those lines, they have a 5-year warranty. So generally, these are more expensive than a lead acid battery. No one's going to argue with you there. Over the lifetime, these are typically comparable to less expensive than these because these guys last so much longer. So benefits there for sure. There's a long list of benefits. So these also have a higher resting voltage, and they also have higher cranking amps. So this guy is going to be about 500 cranking amps. This guy is going to be 1,000 cranking amps. So let's see what else. Much lower discharge. These guys usually discharge maybe about 30% a month. This guy's about 2% per month. So if this is a car that's stored, good option for you there. This guy has 24 amp hours of capacity. That's basically the size of the fuel tank. You could kind of look at it that way. The stock batteries are 30 to 40 amp hours typically. Now, one of the other very cool things about these LiPo batteries is that they can be discharged much further without damaging them. So roughly speaking, you can kind of double the capacity, the amp hours on a LiPo battery to match it to a lead acid battery. So 24 amp hours out of a LiPo battery is roughly equivalent to 48 amp hours in a lead acid. So very comparable in terms of capacity there. One of the other things, so this has a battery management system on board. You'll often see those referred to as a BMS. You can figure out where the acronym comes from. So it basically takes care of the battery. It prevents over discharge, it prevents overcharge, it will protect it from a short circuit, it protects it from over voltage, and it protects it from thermal. Basically, there's thermal protection in there, and then also it balances the individual cells. So basically, there's a little board, a little nanny, taking care of everything. So it just works. One of the really neat things is this button here, and it also has these wireless transmitters here, little key fobs. So this is, there you go, restart. So, excuse me, what that means is that, say you park the car, you leave the lights on, and you walk away. Well, with this guy, you're going to come back to a dead battery. With this guy, you will come back to a dead battery with a big asterisk on it. So what the restart technology means is that it actually disconnects the battery internally once it gets down to a certain voltage so that you still have enough to start the car. So you get back to your car, you try to start it, everything's totally dead, and not a little bit slow cranking dead, but there is nothing there dead. So you either push the button on your key fob or you push the button on the battery reconnects itself, you start your car, and you drive off. That's it. So no dead batteries because it protects itself from you, we could say, maybe. And then another thing, with these guys, they can sulfate. So a lot of chargers will desulfate the battery when they start to do that. This battery literally cannot sulfate because of the way it's built and the chemistry and things that are over my head. But what that means is that you cannot use a normal charger on it. You do need to use a LiFePo-specific battery charger on it. That having been said, if you don't need a charger now, you shouldn't need a charger with this guy. So if you do need to charge it, you have to use a specific charger, which we do sell. Links in the comments. But if you're driving it normally, with a restart, all that kind of stuff, you shouldn't need to worry about it. So these sound perfect, right? They are very close. Basically two drawbacks. One is cost, which is debatable because if you look at lifetime costs, they're really not that expensive. The other drawback is cold weather performance. So if your car is stored in a climate controlled and a heated garage, and maybe you drive it to work and it's around freezing during the day, but then you drive it home and you put it back in the garage, which is above freezing, no worries, you're fine. If the car is stored in freezing conditions, if it's subjected to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, -7 Celsius, or thereabouts frequently, particularly storage-wise, this is not going to be the better battery for you. One of the kind of indications for that is that this battery is actually not rated for cold cranking amps, because cold cranking amps, that test happens at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not an appropriate situation for this battery. So cold weather, don't get this battery. Normal, cool weather, if you will, thing works great. And with the low discharge and the restart, it's great for stored cars that aren't driven that frequently. It's great for daily driver cars, street cars, track cars, whatever. It really works quite well. So Mike said, is there an upper limit to the temperature? No. Yes, of course there is, just like any battery. But realistically, in the climates in which we are going to see, no, there isn't, because it's not combustible and that kind of thing. Yeah, don't put it in your oven. It still shouldn't catch on fire, but it probably will not survive. However, realistically speaking, no. There's, as far as actual atmosphere or whatever. So that is my spiel. So will going to this battery be an easy swap, and will it still maintain the daily driving livability and keep all the standard functions of the car? Yes. Again, the only qualifier there is the cold weather thing. Otherwise, it bolts right in. You don't need a special bracket or anything. It works great. Your starter will probably spin faster with this guy, but that's not a bad thing. So direct swap or modifications needed to fit? Nope. Will FM be selling new hold-down brackets for this specific battery? I'm sensing a theme. No, you don't need it. Small preview, we are working on something smaller that will need a special bracket. Don't have an ETA on that guy right now, but it is coming. Is this an AGM battery? No. So an AGM battery, or absorbed glass mat, is basically a fancy lead acid battery. The chemistry is the same, and I am not a battery tech or a chemist or anything like that, so qualifier on that. But generally speaking, a sealed lead acid battery is kind of this version of that technology. An AGM is this version of that technology, and there are absolutely benefits to it. The LiPo battery is totally different technology. So it's the AGM is going to be closer to this, but still not really that close in a lot of different ways. So can you jump start these in case of emergency like a standard battery? Yep. If you need to connect jumper cables to it, no worries. That'll work fine too. Does this need a special charger or tender? It does not need a special tender in that you probably won't need a tender. It does need a special charger as discussed before. It is less likely that you will need it because of the low discharge and because of the restart functionality. But if you need a charger, you do need a special one that is specific for the LiPo batteries. Again, we do sell that. How is this in colder climates? Any temp limitations? Again, it depends on how you define cold climate. Warm garage overnight, somewhere around freezing during the day, you should be fine. Too much beyond that, particularly in terms of overnight storage, this is probably not the battery for you. Are they streetable in a daily driver? Yes. Will this be good for running accessories like GPS tracker / dash cam when parked for several days? So it will, it should be as good as this guy, because again, with how far you can discharge it, it should have more capacity than a lead acid. I don't know that I would buy it for that reason specifically, but it should still work with that. Again, it also has the restart, so if you leave the car for longer than you anticipate and the dash cam, GPS tracker, whatever, drags it down far enough, it will cut itself off, which means that your dash cam is no longer working, but does mean that you can start the car by pushing one of your buttons and going on your merry way. So more themes here with temperature, which is understandable. Recommended actions for winter storage: leave installed as is, remove from car and recharge in the spring, or leave on trickle charger over winter. So if it's in a temperature controlled environment, I probably wouldn't worry about it. I would just leave it as is, go back out in the spring. If the car is going to be in a cold environment, I would remove the battery and just put it inside. You probably will not need to charge it in the spring or put it on a tender or anything like that because of the low discharge rate. Again, if it does still discharge, just dramatically slower. So if you do need to charge it, make sure you use that LiPo specific charger. Here's an easy one. Are these available to purchase now? Yep. They are on our website, ready to go. So that is a thing in my notes that I forgot to mention, because yes, there is short circuit protection. So you hook it up backwards, the battery says, that's wrong, I'm protecting you from yourself again. And your car will not work, and it might be confusing, but once you figure it out, no big deal. Okay, so that is it. Thank you again, as always, for joining us. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you have new ideas for videos, please let us know. We're always looking for more stuff to make noise about. We'll be back next Thursday. We'll see you guys then.